It just hits you right here. It's powerful. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lone University. Today I'm taking on another request. You guys mentioned KoRn quite a lot in the Mudvayne dig video I did recently, so we're checking out the indelible Fieldy on bass. We're going to be listening to Got the Life from their third album, Follow the Leader, released in 1998. This album put this band on the map with songs like Freak on a Leash, Got the Life as well, and two other singles that are known to be KoRn staples. We're going to be checking out a video of Fieldy actually playing along through the song so I can kind of check out some of his really signature techniques going on. Let's check it out. Got the Life by KoRn. Sounds like he's down-tuned here. Drop A. That low B string tuned down. Giving it that extra grit and grinding sound. It's such a vibe. This just makes you groove here. That is such a signature bass sound that a lot of people just over the years know they go for this Fieldy kind of sound. It's ultra scooped, ultra scooped. It's more about adding a vibe, and the bass tone is almost a utility to what the production of the entire song is going for. I think he has some fuzz here, probably some octave blended in, maybe not. Maybe you guys know kind of what effects he gravitated toward, but the way he's playing the bass is the effect. Growing up, I could name so many friends and peers who mentioned Fieldy as a bass player and him inspiring them to play bass because it sounds cool, it looks cool, and no other bass player really sounds quite like this, you know, at least back then. He kind of pioneered this. The same way Ryan Martini pioneered a lot of his sound in this kind of nu metal scene. It's just really crazy. And I'm really drawn to artists like that who maybe break some of the rules. You know, the slap technique here as a bass teacher, I might say, yeah, it's not what you normally see. It's not going for precision and note clarity. It's adding an effect. It's creating a vibe. To me, this approach is more about not the notes he's playing, but the texture it's creating. I mean, a lot of people have said KoRn drew a lot of hip-hop influences and kind of repackaged it in this metal, nu metal kind of sound. And that kind of genre line blending is where like the true artistry happens to me. You know, they are an iconic band for that era. And again, when I'm listening to him play, I'm not drawn to the notes he's playing. I'm not trying to figure it out. I can see he's kind of doing some hammer-ons like fret 2, fret 1, maybe he's hitting some other open strings, but it's more about the entire way it's making the song feel. Really cool stuff. Let's keep going. See little scratches like that? He's getting that sound however he can. It just hits you right here. It's powerful. Catching some octaves there. Looks like he's using an Ibanez. Not sure if that's stock pickups or see if I can get a closer look. Are those EMGs? Because that would be cool. It looked like EMGs to me. Now he's got some sort of fuzz. Kind of droning out this kind of breakdown part. Sizzly. The atmosphere in this part, so unique. That slap technique, you know, I've taught slap bass a lot. I'm not the greatest at it, but as far as the fundamentals, a lot of people say you really want the thumb to be parallel to the string. That way you don't hit other strings. This is kind of the antithesis of that. To me, it looks like he's mainly focusing on that low string. Every now and then I can kind of see his thumb a little higher. I don't know if he's hitting two strings at once. If that's part of the sound, it's kind of creating that garbled, woofy frequency, again, that is adding an effect to this entire song. So if I were to kind of slap notes, I would keep my thumb parallel. I talk about opening the doorknob quicker, counterclockwise. You kind of want to use your wrist and not your arm. But he's kind of bringing the thumb more perpendicular to the strings. You can kind of get away with this on the lowest string because you can kind of bring your thumb back and kind of... But if you're trying to slap on the higher strings with your thumb kind of down, there's really no way to not hit other strings. But I think that's what he's going for. Let's keep going. Well, he's kind of patting the strings there too. Lots of percussion going on here. Every now and then I can kind of see him get a left hand mute in there, just a simple... And that's adding to the... That kind of thing. He's able to kind of get in some notes on the left hand to kind of get this back and forth between both hands for kind of a straight 16th note kind of groove. I'm glad I found this version. You really put it under the microscope. And the bass is obviously overlaid on top. G, D, kind of following that same progression, chorus. Back with that kind of fuzz droning here in the kind of breakdown section. So on my notes here, doing a little reading on Fieldy, he states that Flea was one of his biggest bass players. Now, both bass players are kind of slapping. Both bass players are adding an intensity to their respective bands. That's a real big part of their sound, but I would not consider the Chili Peppers and KoRn to really be stylistically similar, okay? They could play on the same bill. Maybe they have. But the point I want to make is that I love when an artist takes an influence from something outside of their sound and reincorporates it into their sound. So, for example, if you were to take a jazz bass player and put them in a death metal project, there are glimpses of that jazz influence and style that are naturally going to become apparent in the song, and that adds a unique flavor that maybe other death metal bands might not have. You have a metal bass player playing in a death metal band. It's going to sound great. But when you have those outside of your genre pluckings influentially into the project you're doing, that's super cool. I just did 2 different videos featuring Clay Gober of Polyphia. Great example. Those guys kind of came from a shred, heavy metal background, and now they're kind of incorporating those tropes into this more pop, trap, electronic thing, and that's really working for them. And that adds a unique edge to them that not a lot of other bands have. It's really, really cool when somebody pulls something from another genre and brings it into their own. Again, that's true artistry to me, and it adds a spin on the song that might not be there otherwise. And one thing I notice about Fieldy's playing is that it exemplifies how the bass guitar has the widest gradient of really any instrument, in my opinion. What I mean by that is that a guitar player in most bands has to be responsible for the melodic foundation, the chord progression, the riff, the lead. The drummer has to keep time. They have to hold some sort of groove down that is the rhythmic foundation of everything. The bass can kind of play both sides of that. In a jazz song, a bass player is very responsible for the chord progression, the notes. If it's fusion, the bass line is really driving that, whether it's kind of funky, or a walking bass line that's completely anchoring the chord progression. But then you take it to the other side where a bass could be there just for how it rounds the sound out. So think of like Meshuggah. The bass player is largely doubling those riffs. If you don't know who Meshuggah is, very heavy, iconic, heavy band. Low-tuned guitars, low-tuned bass. It's creating this singular wall of sound. The bass player in Meshuggah is not adding a lot to the melodic side of the song, but an overdriven, crunchy, low-tuned bass sound is contributing to the sound as a utility. If you took the bass out of Meshuggah, a Meshuggah song, it would not change, it would not lose anything melodically about the song in most cases, but it would lose some sound. I love exploring that gradient of being a bass player, that you can be completely utility and contribute to the sound, or you can actually contribute melodically and drive the piece that way. We have a lot of freedom with this instrument, and this is an example of going the other way and adding some melodic sensibility as well, because he's following the chord progression, he's playing in the right key, the right notes, of course, but it's adding so much to the texture of the song. That's my favorite part of playing this instrument. Let's keep going. The bass tone just makes me want to keep listening. There's something about it. And he has it so scooped in a way where any artifact that might be unwanted he's scooping out so much frequency that it's making any sound very uniform. So whether he accidentally hits a string up here or hits it down here or grabs it with his fingers, it's all going to make it very uniform because it's going to push everything to the highs or kind of push everything to the lows. And the mid frequencies are what might differentiate this sound with that sound with this sound. And it just kind of gives this uniformity to what he plays, where it's this almost machine gun like. I'm just amazed with it. It's super cool. This is not a style I've ever approached any projects I've done. I've always been very heady with I did jazz band for a long time, played progressive music, so I'm really drawn to like the whole approach here. KoRn certainly is creating something that really hits you in the chest. It's you can't just recreate that. You can't just join a band and try to sound like KoRn. You have to really take this entire school of thought, everything he's doing, his effects, the technique, with kind of this imperfect approach. But that is part of his sound. It's genius. I love it. Let's keep going. That wouldn't have the same effect if he was just plucking it. Big live element too to that. If he were on stage playing this song and, just kind of plucking it, whatever the notes are, it just like watching him kind of bounce around with his hand like this. I mean, that is a big part of his look, his whole presentation. And, if you asked me to recreate that sound, I don't think I could do it. I could try, but you can kind of tell he's taking this really organic approach to get to his sound. He's adding the scratches here. And I'm sure there's enough one pedal that could recreate this sound, but his technique is such a large part of it. It's just like a chainsaw. And it sounds like this kind of fuzz part just comes on for those post-chorus sections, I suppose. It's just like thunder. It's infectious to listen to. The way he switches from this more percussive, locking in with the drums, creating this groove, and then he can jump back into the chorus and play finger style, which looks like he has great technique. kind of mounting the thumb on the pickup. It looks very traditional. There's nothing really stand out about it. It's when he does this signature slap stuff. I really like it. I'm really drawn to this. And again, I've just not listened to a lot of KoRn. I've certainly not watched him play. This is really my first time to look at him play the bass. And it kind of all makes sense based on hearing Freak on a Leash every now and then over the last 20 years. Very interesting. See, normal finger style here. Really great. I just love this whole vibe. Well, I'm really happy I got to kind of dive in and put Fieldy's playing under the microscope. Obviously, as a bass player, I'm aware of KoRn. I'm aware of him. And sometimes I have this purview of certain bass players just by being a bass player and being aware of them, but not having really dove into their music. And that's one of my favorite parts about doing these videos is I can kind of be reintroduced in this kind of context. This guy is to me what true artistry is about, as I said earlier. A unique sound. It may not be for everyone, but I've learned over the years that it's the sum of the parts with bass playing. And in fact, if you want to dial your tone in, getting a great tone by yourself, in my experience, doesn't always work when you put it with a band. You have to kind of acquiesce to the other demands of the sonic spectrum. This is an example of that. By itself, it sounds like a chainsaw. In context, they created platinum-selling albums that appeal to everybody. And again, I would say thousands of bass players, hundreds of thousands of bass players probably were influenced by KoRn growing up, watching him play, do his thing, and something about his sound and presentation resonated with everyone. I'm drawn to stuff like that. Thank you for watching. This was a lot of fun. If you haven't seen my Mudvayne video featuring Ryan's angle on Dig, you can catch it on the end screen here. Give me a thumbs up. Comment what you think about Fieldy's playing. Maybe share some stuff that I didn't know about Fieldy, because I'm really interested to know maybe what signal chain or effects he might be using, because it sounds just like a really scooped kind of natural tone. And he's really getting that sound from the way he plays it. But thank you guys. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.